Welcome to this webinar, Educating Girls, a Long-Range Community Investment. It is sponsored by LitRag, the Literacy Rotary Action Group. We thank the organizers of the convention for inviting us to be part of this virtual breakout session for this year's Rotary International Convention. I am Carolyn Johnson, Chair of LitRag and member of the Yarmouth Rotary, Maine, USA, and I will be the moderator for this session. The objectives for this session include: why is the education of girls a game changer for communities and the broader global society? Second, why, despite the need for better education for girls, does it remain a challenge? Third, what are proven practices that work? And fourth, how can Rotary identify effective programs and partners to scale up these efforts? The reality is, so many girls are out of school. Nearly 132 million girls do not attend school each year. Nearly a quarter of those are not in primary schools. 30 million girls are not attending lower secondary school. And nearly half, 67.4 million girls, are out of upper secondary education each year. According to Save the Children, one of Rotary's strategic partners, nearly 23 girls under the age of 17 are married every minute. Girls are 3 times more likely to be out of school. Without an education, girls are twice as likely to die from malnutrition. Girls are twice as likely to be subject to sexual violence. And without an education, girls are twice as likely to be coerced into trafficking. But the good news, if we work with education and get girls in school, there will be 66% fewer maternal deaths, 50% a greater survival rate for children under age 5, and 781 million people will be lifted out of poverty. So why invest in girls' education? First, economic growth. With improved economic growth, lifetime earnings will increase. Women who attend just 1 year of secondary education increase their earning power by 25%. This leads to improved economic resources for local communities, regions, and whole country GDPs. Second, with girls' education, communities will improve. Women become more involved with the decisions of a local community once they are educated. Greater female involvement in communities also leads to less terrorism and support for militancy than men with the same educational levels. Child marriage rates decline, which also leads to declines in domestic abuse. If every girl in South and West Asia and the girls living in sub-Saharan Africa completed secondary education, child marriages would fall by nearly 65%. With education of girls, child mortality rates fall. 1.8 million children's lives could be saved if their mothers were able to complete secondary school. Children born to literate mothers are 50% more likely to survive past the age of 5 when women have their children after the age of 18. Child stunting decreases when women are more knowledgeable about children's nutrition, proper sanitation, medical care, vaccination rates improve. Children with mothers who are educated at the secondary school level are twice as likely to receive vaccinations against deadly diseases. And lastly, generational successes increase. There are many studies that show that a woman's education has more impact on her children attending school than would a father's education at the same level. So how do we do this? What do we accomplish? Number one, Rotarians can be involved in providing quality books, textbooks, curriculum, and literature that is free of gender stereotypes. Number two, Rotarians can work with schools and organizations to provide a strong presence of women teachers at all grade levels. Strong women, women as leaders, especially at secondary schools, increases the likelihood of girls staying in school for longer. We can provide access to clean, safe, girl-friendly sanitation. And lastly, we can encourage girls to come to school. We can provide structures that shorten the distance to attend schools, improve the safety once girls are in schools, and also provide resources to eliminate the economic hardships such as scholarships for girls to attend schools. This shows Rotary's involvement in the first 5 years of our Global Grants program. And as you can see, between 2014 and 2018, we supported $47.5 million in grants for basic education and literacy. A breakdown of those BEL projects shows that in those 5 years, only 9 projects were specifically targeted, $500,000 specifically targeted to support girls' education. Now, certainly washing schools, school refurbishment, tutoring and mentoring, improving teachers' training can lead to the improvement of access to school for girls. But this is an area providing specific interventions for girls' education where Rotarians can be involved. And certainly we have multiple opportunities to partner. The Wash in Schools projects to provide safe school facilities, adequate sanitation, menstrual hygiene curriculum, and hygiene education is all areas where our partners in water, sanitation, and hygiene area of focus work. As educators, we can also help to improve those efforts. In economic development, providing scholarships to girls, microcredit for their parents, literacy and financial literacy for women can also help improve the quality of education. Our colleagues working in peace and conflict resolution can work with us on curriculums that teach emotional, physical, and sexual safety and reduce gender-biased violence. And certainly working with our colleagues in the health arenas, maternal and child health and disease prevention, can help reinforce the need for vaccination, reinforcing this health curriculum through literacy, and provide school screenings for basic health needs. Every girl, no matter what her circumstances, has the right to learn. Every leader, no matter who he or she is or the resources available to him or her, has the duty to fulfill and protect this right. This is from Malala Yousafzai, Nobel Peace Laureate. But certainly, as leaders, as Rotarians, we can make sure that all girls have the proper access to learning and to schooling. I'd like now to introduce our panelists for today, Rotarians who are talented, passionate, and experienced about providing girls education. We'll hear from Raja Jan, who is the Executive Director of Raja's Ray of Hope. Anand Seth, a Rotarian and founder of EduGirls. Kara Vanderkamp and Raymond Panzik, who work with the Remember Niger Coalition. And Lydia Ochi and Dr. Ted Ning, who work with Maya Impact in Guatemala. Our first presenter is Raja Jan, the founder and president of Raja's Ray of Hope and the Zabuli Education Center, where she has worked for many years to forge connections between Afghans and Americans. When Raja learned of the historic former boys' school in Afghanistan district of Jesu had been destroyed during decades of war, she began planning to rebuild that school and provide Afghan girls with a more promising future. The Zabuli Education Center opened its doors in March 2008 and now provides free education for more than 700 Afghan girls who were previously denied an education.
We're traveling with Razia Jan, from her home in Kabul City to the little village of Dey Subs on the edge of Kabul province. She's taking us to the girls' school she started here.
The day before we were opening the school, some men came inside and said, please make it into a boys' school because the boys are the backbone of Afghanistan and they need this help. And I said, well, you know that the women are eyesight of Afghanistan. And I said, unfortunately, you all are blind. Hi, Mimi. Hi, how are you? Hi.
And in a village where all the women wear burqas, Razia stands out. I'm finding mostly for standing up for the girls.
Assalamu alaikum. Stop! Hey! Nani bana git pflaster? चंद रोज की सेट शुदन अमी नाम
In a meeting with teachers, Razia tells them to make sure the youngest students quickly learn to write their father's names. Something as small as this can go a long way in making families feel proud and change men's attitudes about educating their daughters.
Zaid Eka I is Kia. My name is Zakia. My father name is Mama.
Before the first week of school is finished, that's exactly what first graders know how to do. The village elders come for meetings throughout the year. The religious leaders are here, the mayor. Most of the men in this room send their daughters here, which is an important message to the whole community that this school matters. Still, by the way most of them avoid eye contact with Razia, it's clear they're not used to a woman being in charge.
And their heads were down because my head was way up high. Because I wanted to look in their eyes and say that you have to make a change.
Razia has a special relationship with the school's oldest students. She tells them that studying is not a sin and that no one has the right to prevent them from being here. This is the class of 2015, the very first graduating class from the very first girls' school in the village of Day Subs, Afghanistan.
Through education, these girls and young women have an opportunity to escape the vicious cycle of poverty, malnutrition, and hunger. Raj's humanitarian efforts are honored in First Lady Laura Bush's 2016 book, We Are Afghan Women. Raja is a Rotarian, past president of Rotary Club of Duxbury, Massachusetts, and currently a member of Rotary Los Angeles, California, USA. Welcome, Raja.
Hello, my name is Razia Jan, and I'm a Rotarian for 25 years. I'm a native of Afghanistan, and I lived in the US for past 40 years. During the civil war in Afghanistan and the occupation of Taliban, the women lost all their rights. When I was growing up, I was treated the same as my brothers. I had the same privileges of getting education. But unfortunately, during these first 40 years, the women have no right. They were not even allowed to walk out on the street without a male escort. Things were so terrible that every week a woman would be brought to a stadium and shot to death because they used to try to walk alone and get groceries or things that were necessary for the family. When I went after the fall of Taliban, what I saw was horrible. The women were treated so bad. And because growing up, I had all the privileges of getting education, I thought that the only way we could do benefit to these women's life or make it better if we give them the privilege of education. And being a Rotarian with my Rotary Club, which was a small Rotary Club in Duxbury, Massachusetts, we raised over 20,000 once and another 110,000 again. So I had 130,000 to take with me to Afghanistan and try to build a girls' school. And this would be the first girls' school after 40 years. I found a little village that there was a boys' school which was destroyed many times during the Taliban. And I thought that that would be the best place to start and establish that woman count. After a lot of struggle, I was able to build a girls' school, a beautiful girls' school with 22 classrooms. I had all the refugees, women that were misplaced, displaced, they had come back, and we had our teachers from that group of people who were refugees for all their life. And they started with me. We started with 100 girls in the beginning. And today is our 13th year. We had 5 graduating class. We have over 700 girls right now studying in this school. And 2 years ago, when my first graduating class finished, they asked me, Razia, we can't leave this village. What is our future? And I told them that I will build you a college next door. And with my Rotary clubs all over the world, I was able to raise money and build a 2-year institute. The reason that I chose midwifery there, because the death rate among women are over 40%, and the child hardly could live 6 months. I thought that this would be the best for this community to start. So we had graduated 20 girls after 2 years of classes. And right now, they are working in these 7 villages. The government, the Ministry of Health has opened for them different places, small clinics that these girls can work. I think I can see the changes. I can see the changes among men because these girls are trying to help their brothers, their uncles, their fathers who couldn't read or write. You know what I do? The best thing that I've done from the very first day, that I have kept in mind that in that society, we have to work with men. And what I did for the first day when the kids came to my class as a kindergarten students, I made sure that the teachers teach them to write their father's name really in English and in Dari. So the first day when a child went home with a piece of paper written their father's name, believe me, next day I got a father coming to my school and crying. He said, I'm 45 years old. I can't read or write. I put my thumb on everything, but my 5-year-old girl can read and write my name. And that is such a great blessing. So I have tried to make and work within the community to make things better for these girls. Right now, I have 2 girls that have full scholarship at American University in Afghanistan, which is $15,000 a year. I have a girl who graduated, she was our first graduating class. She is in Turkey doing medical. I can see the changes. Right now, some of my teachers are my first graduate class. I want this community to prosper with these women, with their right, with their thinking that they can make life better for the whole family. And these are our goals. I think Rotary has done wonders. I can't thank Rotary clubs of all over the world and also different states that have believed in me. They have worked with me to make life better for these women and girls. And I see a great future. We had a science competition among men and boys and girls, college and high school students. And my student won the first prize among thousands of students all over Afghanistan, which is such an honor. We are trying to really teach these girls to be a better person, a better leader, and a better organizer. I thank you all for listening. We need your support to go forward. I would appreciate if we hold each other's hand and go forward to make a better life for women and girls all over the world, to give them better education. Thank you so much for listening, and I appreciate this time.
Thank you, Raja, for that incredible story. Our second presenter is Anand Seth. Anand is a member of the newly established online Rotary Club International Friendship based in Bethesda, Maryland. He is Rotary's ambassador designate to the World Bank, from which he retired in 2007 after a career spanning 35 years. Upon retirement, Anand established EduGirls to apply global best practices to the chronic and huge deficit in the education of girls living in extreme poverty. Welcome, Anand.
Thank you, Carolyn, for that introduction. Like human life, EduGirls was born in pain. In 2004, a girl by the name of Seema made a very painful comment. Seema's mother used to work as a maid, and the head of that household offered Seema a glass of milk. And Seema, what she said was very painful. She said, "No, milk is for my brother. He goes to school." And that one comment moved those who were around her to start a process which eventually brings EduGirls in front of you. So I'll tell you our story first through Seema's eyes as to how she sees education in the world, and then bring you to what EduGirls does in responding to Seema's view of the world. So this is Seema's home in my hometown of Jaipur. Her father plows rickshaws. Her mother works as a maid. And there she is at the corner on the left, at home, looking after siblings on the right. And her biggest regret is that when her brother comes home from government school, he actually has homework. Because for her, homework consists of collecting firewood, gathering water, cooking for the family, and cleaning clothes. And it's not that she doesn't know the reality. Let me tell you what her reality is. First, that grandma never went to school, and she feels she must. Her parents know that education matters. Her mother says all the time, if I had gone to a school, I would not have been working as a maid. She also knows that she's low on priority of family resources. In traditional families like in India, it's the boys who look after parents in older age. So when there's a tension, like for milk in the household, the priority goes to the boy. And she also knows that her parents' primary concern is to be safe at home till she is married, and hopefully married young, so that the liability that they perceive is passed on to the next family. And she also realizes that because of poverty and lack of family income, she needs to go and help out and work and make some kind of menial income, giving up school. And in her heart, all she wants, can I learn, can I earn, and can I help my family do better? So what do we do? How we respond to these kind of situations of seamas of this world? First, you have to customize the delivery to her circumstance. You can't do a cookie cutter 9-to-5 school and expect her to be able to participate effectively in that school because of her special economic, gender, and social constraint. And other thing we do is that we believe that just getting enrolled or even finishing primary or secondary school, although it does change things for society as a whole, is passport to nothing. And therefore, we put emphasis on getting girls enrolled, stay in school, and move on to financial independence. I'll talk a bit more about it later. There is a lot of global knowledge around as to how to deal with these circumstances, unique circumstances. And if you apply that knowledge, answers will be found. And so we have developed what we call 10 mantras. It's a package, a holistic system of 10 interventions that, if made together as a package, will guarantee you that you can get a girl living in poverty under all kinds of constraints all the way through school and into a job so that she can be financially independent. The first, of course, is community outreach. The pressure on the girl to get married young comes from the community. So you have to convince the community that a girl, when is educated, is as much of an asset to society and to the immediate family as a boy who is educated. You know, the girls are needed at home, especially in poor households when both parents are out there trying to eke out a living. And therefore, what we do at some of our schools is to shorten the school day and lengthen the school year. So we run the school on Saturdays, sometimes even on Sundays, but only run for 4 hours a day. So the girls can have time in the morning to take care of chores and responsibilities at home, keep the family together, and yet get an education over the year. Once girls finish school, that's not enough. And therefore, every girl is guaranteed a vocational scholarship or a college scholarship, depending on her academic skills, and so that she can go on and actually be a productive member of in the marketplace. You have to take care of health, hygiene, and nutrition. You have to give these girls incentives to perform. As Carol was saying, 1/3 of the girls drop out by grade 5, another 1/3 drop out by grade 8, and very few go on to finish high school. So we have to build into our programs performance incentives to do well. To be ready for the Indian marketplace, if you don't have English skills, you are going nowhere. So we insist in introducing English curriculum, teaching in English medium very early in our schools. And of course, for the modern world, if you just do home science or do humanities, you are able to be creative, but a lot of the professional jobs come through science, math, and technology training, so we insist on a STEM curriculum. People have highlighted the importance of safety, and some of our campuses are all female campuses, virtually no males around. And we do insist on providing transportation from the slums where the girls come from to the school and back, both for safety considerations and for saving the girls valuable time. In the market, she may be only worth a few pennies an hour, but her time is very precious in terms of family circumstances, and the transportation will provide support for that. And of course, education has to be free. Moment you put a price on it, all the people believe in having a skin in the game. Moment you put a price on it, the boys will go to school and the girls will be kept at home. And of course, quality has to be job number one, because moment the parents mothers find out that the girl is not learning anything, she'll say, come back home, do something else. I cannot afford to have you go to school and learn nothing. So you have to have quality education. So where are we as an organization, EduGirls? We started EduGirls 5 years ago, although the roots, the foundation on which our ideas are built were 15, 16 years ago. We have 1,000 girls in 4 schools in 3 countries. And there are 32 girls who are in vocational training. And the moment they finish this vocational training, they'll be doubling their family income. I want to remind you, this is from a low base, where even $300 a month will be a big addition to family income, but they will be doing so. And other girls who are academically sharp are pursuing a bachelor's degree in education at colleges. And here is one success criteria. Only one girl so far has got married below the age of 20. Because as you know, if you can postpone that marriage age, a lot of things, good things happen. And we have had some indicator of success in that. But the most important thing that I want to tell you is that this does not cost an arm and a leg. For pennies a day, we are able to educate a girl in the kind of system that we are talking. And what we have done more recently, and this is a very recent innovation, now our support to our schools is not based on how many computers you need, how many uniforms you need, how much this you need. It's based on what outcomes are you achieving, how many girls are getting into jobs, and what is their income in the first job. So we have moved to a system of grants which are based on outcomes achieved. And what we do is we make a 3-year pledge and adjust the second year and the third year depending on achievement against outcomes that they have promised. So let me go to the third part of the agenda as to where we are now. First, we know that educating girls living in poverty and taking them to financial independence is not rocket science. Second thing is, it does not cost a fortune. You can do it for pennies a day. Unfortunately, it's not happening enough. There was a recent forecast by UNESCO saying the last girl living in poverty will not finish primary school for another 70 years. That's the nature of the neglect and the chronic nature of this problem, that not enough is happening despite all the evidence. And Carolyn gave us a lot of reasons earlier as to why we should support girls' education. Let me add one more. A recent piece of research on climate change establishes, because of the huge effect that girls' education has on family size and population growth, that the third most effective intervention against climate change is educating our girls. So if you need one more reason to educate our girls, here it is, but it's not happening enough, unfortunately. And the other sad part is that it takes time. If you want to build a road, you want to build it faster, you put more people on the job, you put more tractors at work. But if you want to educate a girl living in poverty and take her to financial independence, is 16 years minimum. You cannot accelerate that. You have to invest the time. So this is where I think the Rotary comes in. For real, rapid, sustained change, because this needs a very sustained application of our minds and energies to achieve this goal, is we need a global movement. You know, Rotary created the polio program. It took 3 decades, $20 billion, strong commitment. It has something common with girls' education. It's not rocket science. It can be done. But we need a global movement to actually have an impact on this one fundamental agenda, which has been lingering for so long. And Rotary has a role to play because Rotary has a great outreach and it has a great voice. I was at the Toronto convention and all the external speakers were encouraging Rotary to work on a global scale, work on healthcare, work on water supply. Rotary has that reach and has that brand to actually be a player at the world stage. And I strongly believe that young people have to get into action because it's not going to happen in my lifetime. This is an agenda of 2 lifetimes. And actually, I'm happy to announce that on the 29th of July, we're going to launch our first youth chapter based on internet connectivity. We are going to try and connect youth of the US behind this agenda. What can the Rotarians do? We have a package of good practices. All these are being applied. Let's make sure we apply the package, because if we take one element out and before you know, it has a huge impact on the final outcome. And all countries, just educating girls are not enough. We're talking about educating girls living in poverty, living in conflict. And so we have to focus our energies on challenged countries. And Niger is certainly one of them, Guatemala is certainly one of them, India and Pakistan are certainly there. We can make a list of 10 most challenged countries and we focus our energies on those 10. will have a huge impact. And finally, the most important thing is to make our leaders aware of where they stand. You know, every prime minister knows where he stands on the economy, because all the complexities of an economy have been converted to 4 very simple to understand indicators, which everybody in the population understands. What is our GDP growth rate? What is our unemployment rate? What is our exchange rate? What is our budget deficit? All the complexities of an economy are converted into 5 and 6 simple indicators. Try the same thing in girls' education. Beyond enrollment, you cannot find an indicator that you can compare different countries around. No prime minister will know, how do I stand on the quality of completion? What percent of my girls are completing high school? You cannot get that indicator to compare with other countries. You cannot get an indicator as to how well my girls are learning. What income are they getting afterwards? So there's a challenge there to make our leaders aware of where they stand vis-a-vis other countries, just like they know where their economy stands vis-a-vis other countries. And that will spur action. My dream remains that one day, like polio, educating girls will become a movement where we are all involved on a sustained basis, on a long-term basis, not happy to do our individual projects, which are relevant. We have done projects with Rotary support. Of the 500,000 that Carolyn said went into girls' education in 9 projects, 2 are sponsored by EduGirls, and 100,000 of that has been given to EduGirls projects. So we are active at that project level, but doing a few projects here and there will not create the kind of change that this agenda needs. And I hope Rotary leaders will decide one day that, yes, this is worthy of a global movement, and get, of course, the youth involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anand. Your story is absolutely inspiring. Our third presenters are Cara van der Kamp and Ray Panzik from the Remember Niger Coalition. Cara is the founder and executive director of Remember Niger. After living in Niger for 2 years and working with the leaders of a Nigerian denomination who had a powerful vision for education in their country, Cara saw the need for a partner and fundraising organization in the U.S. She assembled a team of driven, passionate individuals to create the Remember Niger Coalition to help educate children in Niger. Since then, Cara has led the initiatives to spread the word about this organization and its mission, and implement, monitor, and evaluate this project. Previously, Cara was a teacher at the elementary school level in Kenya and in Chicago. She has a master's degree from Columbia University in International Education Development. Joining her is Ray Panzik, who is a member of the Montgomery Village Rotary Club in Maryland, USA. Ray lived and worked in Africa for nearly 20 years as a country director and planned field operations in health, nutrition, safe water, food supply, and other developmental projects. This included assignments with the US NGO, UNICEF, and then with the Peace Corps. A Rotarian for 50 years, Ray has participated in a number of international aid projects funded through Rotary grants at both the club and district levels and through the Rotary Foundation. Welcome, Cara and Ray.
Thank you, Carolyn. It is great to be here, and it is a privilege to be a part of this conversation. So thank you for having me. And also I'm joined by, as you were saying, Ray, who is not only my colleague, but also a Rotarian. And I'll be passing the baton to him later in the presentation. Remember Niger Coalition was established in 2009 with the mission to expand quality educational opportunities in Niger. And we do that by collaborating with local partners. And we do things like build schools, provide scholarships, and provide programming that enhances the education of students. Niger is a very poor country. It ranks last on the United Nations Human Development Index. And this is primarily due to the fact that the top 2/3 of Niger is consumed by the Sahara Desert. 50% of girls in Niger attend primary school, only 2% attend high school. And on average, women have over 7 children in their lifetime, which is the highest birth rate in the world. And the median age of marriage in Niger is about 15 years. So Remember Niger Coalition recognizes the importance of girls' education, and we're addressing the challenge of girls' education at the primary level through sponsorships, and at the secondary level, we helped establish the HAMSA Girls Education Center with local partners. And really, that's what I want to focus on today, is the ways in which the HAMSA Center is addressing the challenges to girls' education, the first of which is cultural perspective. It's the idea that girls are needed at home, that they should be married by the age of 18 at the latest, and perhaps there's limited value in educating a girl. So the solutions, the ways that we're addressing this challenge, is by having a school just for girls with female teachers, by having ongoing discussions with parents, and offering skills courses like sewing, cooking, computer courses, things like that. Another challenge that must be addressed is the low level of early education. Most or many girls in Niger only attend primary school for a few years, and when they do, it's often a low quality of education that they're receiving. And so then they're unable to pass the 6th grade national exam, which every student must pass in order to go on to secondary school. So the solutions to this challenge is to provide well-trained teachers. We have small class sizes, and we offer remedial classes so that we can recover these girls. Another challenge is health. This has been talked about already, but in Niger, girls can miss up to 20% of a school year due to the lack of access to latrines and sanitary napkins. So we provide the girls with sanitary napkins. We have a solar-powered well for clean water. And of course, you can see in the picture here, toilets, which are private, and wash stations. Safety is definitely a concern in Niger. There are conflicts in different regions there. Often girls and boys have to walk long distances to get to secondary schools. Many students live in rural communities where they don't have access to secondary schools. One of the first things we did with Rotary support was we put in a high security wall. We hired a school guardian. We offer safe transportation options. And then we will have a boarding component. And then, of course, extreme poverty. You have to address this issue because many parents just can't afford to send their girls to school, to secondary school. And so we offer scholarships at the secondary school level. So I'm happy to report that we did have some success at the HAMSA Center in year 1. We had a 100% attendance rate. 75% of the students passed the standardized exams. The enrollment nearly doubled from year 1 to year 2. This year, we're going to put in a computer lab. In fact, we're doing that this month. We will be offering 10 additional scholarships, and we hope to increase enrollment to 40 students, double the number of students again. We believe that girls' education is achievable, but for us, there are 4 main keys. First, you have to work with local partners. You need to meet regularly with parents. It's important to offer multi-sector quality educational opportunities, and each challenge needs to be addressed at the local level. I want to introduce you to Binta here. Binta came to us in her first year, the year that the school started. And she had failed the 6th grade exam twice, but we were able to recover her through our remedial program. And she is now at the top of her class. And you can see she's standing next to her proud mother who's beaming there. And Binta says, "I love school and my studies. My teachers care about my success and we work hard. When I finish school, I want to be a doctor." So I'm now going to pass the baton to Ray. He is going to talk about this project from a Rotarian's perspective.
Thank you, Carolyn and Kara. First, the Rotary theme for this year is a challenge to all of us to act with a clear focus. And in accepting this challenge, we'll soon reap the reward of a job well done. Some years back, one of our aims in Africa and elsewhere was to help provide basic education in mother-child health and nutrition. Now, what better way than to educate girls at a higher level with a more formal education? Remember, Niger develops projects using professional engineering plans, defined project timelines, and always a realistic budget. As Karen mentioned, we work with local communities, plan and manage these schools. Engagement with a Rotary Club, host country Rotary Club is essential. Those Rotarians come from business, education, banking, healthcare, and local governments. In-kind support and funding from host country Rotary clubs can be a key component. Our support for the Hampshire Center includes modest grants from a number of Rotary clubs on the East Coast of the USA and also in the Midwest. As Kara mentioned, Niger relies on the southern border of the Sahara Desert with a year-round sunlight. Here you can see the use of solar panels for innovative technology that were donated by a company in the USA. The water source is a deep well, over 100 feet deep. The drill rigging equipment and team were an in-kind donation from a major well digging company. Our next effort at the Hampshire Center will be the installation of these same kinds of solar panels. They'll generate more electricity for the classrooms and also provide power for the solar panels. And lastly, to see just one example of the power of education that can lead to later achievement, we have only to look at this photo. It's the former Nigerian ambassador to the United States and Canada, Her Excellency Hassana Alidu. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ray. And again, thank you, Carolyn, and to the other presenters. As you can tell, we've been really blessed with Rotary support in this project, and it has made an enormous difference. I can say with almost certainty that this education center would not be here without the Rotary support that we have received at the club level and district level all over the United States. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kara and Ray. And our last presenters are Lydia Ochui and Ted Ning from Maya Impact Project in Guatemala. Lydia is the Director of Special Projects for Maya Impact, which is the first female Indigenous-led secondary school in Central America. Maya offers a holistic education focused equally on academics, culture and identity, socio-emotional development, and family engagement. Lydia joined the organization in 2018. She is Maya Ketchikel and earned a scholarship to go to the University of Wisconsin, where she earned a degree in natural resources management. Lydia later earned another scholarship to study in Taiwan, where she lived and studied for 5 years and studied Mandarin Chinese and earned a degree in business administration. Lydia is fluent in Ketchikel, Spanish, English, and Mandarin Chinese. Before joining Maya, Lydia worked for the Embassy of Taiwan and also taught at the university level. Dr. Ted Ning is the co-founder of Maya Impact. The school is focused on developing a network of public, private, and NGO partners to provide a platform for these entities to collaborate in order to share best practices, co-design innovation, and lead sustainable local development. Ted has recently received the Active Senior Award from his club and has used the global grant and matching grant process to obtain over $500,000 in projects for Guatemala. He has extensive experience involving his club members with these projects. A semi-retired urologist and professor of medicine, Ted is a recognized expert in international development and medical anthropology. Ted is a member of Evergreen Rotary, Colorado, USA. Welcome, Lydia and Ted.
Thank you, Carolyn, for the opportunity. And this is Maya Impact. My name is Lydia Oshie, the Director of Special Project at the Maya organization. And so to start with, our work is unlock and maximize the potential of young women to lead transformational change in Guatemala. So Maya is designed for a bold change. So if you can see this picture, this is Ishmukane, and she's one of our first group of students. She's currently attending 10th grade. And what do we mean by bold? She is the one or the first one in her family to study secondary school. Most of our students do not, their parents were not able to get formal education, or they didn't even finish elementary school. And we're from Guatemala, which has the worst gender gap in the Americas. And Maya women are perceived to be the problem in this country. So what Maya does is we look for students who are eager to learn, who have this desire to find opportunity and to break any obstacle that they could find in their way. And we also, I would include myself, as Maya women, we tend to face 4 types of discrimination: by being a woman, by being indigenous, by being poor, and by being from these rural communities of Guatemala. And just a little bit of numbers, only 1 of 10 Mayan girls will finish high school, and only 1% would finish a university degree. And Maya does quality over quantity, an inch wide and a mile deep. And we also focus on her family, her as a girl, and also her social emotional cycle. So what's unique about Maya? So here we also see another student. She's Catherine. Catherine, it's right now we have 188 students. We have 4 grades. Each grade has 2 classes. And what is unique about Maya is that it's designed, led, and run by indigenous women, same gender, same population. And all the leadership team and all our teachers, our educators, our mentors are social workers. They work with the families into the communities. And what is nice about this and unique is that we come from the same context. We know the challenges there are out there, and we also know the needs, and we know how to make it right. So here I would like to share a bit of my story. So I come pretty much from the same background. As I grew up, home we speak mainly our native language, which is Cachiquel. And then I learned Spanish mainly when I entered elementary school. And it's nice because it's easier for us to pick it up while you are growing up, but it's also difficult because most of the schools do not take into consideration, like it's not an ESL program. It's just like you get in and you learn, either it's easy for you or it's difficult. Then in my case, I was able to go to school because my mom she is like my #1 supporter. She always encouraged me to go to school, while my dad was thinking that I should get married, and he wasn't really willing to invest in my education at the early stage. But my mom was strong enough, and as you see Catherine, she looks bold and she looks happy to be at school. So this is the way that I felt that time. And I wanted to finish high school and to continue education, and I am an elementary school teacher. And I managed to get a scholarship to go to the States. That's where I learned English, and I live in Wisconsin for 2 years. And then I also, later on, I knew that there was more to do out there, and I wanted to continue, and I got a scholarship to go to Taiwan. And it's a process, and I had this network, and somehow I ended up in Taiwan. And I lived there for 5 years, and I learned Mandarin, and I still speak Cachiquel. It's kind of funny, but when I came back, my first job back in Guatemala was to teach Chinese Mandarin for a program of the embassy of Taiwan. So I was teaching Chinese or a second language for elementary school girls as well. So it was really nice. So this is like the mirror effect. And this is really valuable because if you see it, you can be it. So students interact with our team every day. And there are so many wonderful and powerful stories and that they can see, and they see that we can do it and that we are definitely not the problem. And then, so we are also redefining school in Guatemala. So we have 21st century academics, we have family engagement program. Half of our team are social workers who in regular times will be visiting families once every month. We also integrate culture, academics, community. We understand the community that they come from. They also have a rigorous formative assessment. And at the end of this 6 years intervention, they would be speaking, of course, the native language, Spanish, and also English. So they will be able to speak 3 languages. And also we have innovation. So we have dozens of international innovators supporting our program, and we learn from them. Here we have the 4 goals of Maya. So we are also aiming for them to have economic autonomy, also to have a family on her own terms, a lifelong learning. We want them to have 15 years of formal education and unlocking leadership potential. So this is where we see the importance of them becoming and occupying these opportunities and positions in Guatemala to make national and international, perhaps global change. Because if they are not able, if they don't have the abilities, the capabilities, these opportunities, they won't be able to occupy these key leadership positions. And systemic change. We know that we cannot do this alone. So we have partnership with several organizations, but the girl is always our focus. So she is our inspiration, our strength, but our aim. So all the efforts are directed for her to get the opportunities and also to help to develop her abilities. So we work with several organizations. Even 2 of our students have traveled to Abu Dhabi and have presented. So this year in January, one of our students was presenting in Syed Sustainability Prize, and we were awarded a prize, the Syed Prize last year for the #1 of the Americans secondary school. This is just fascinating how this collaboration works and what it does in the life of a girl. And later on, she would be a change maker. She would impact not only her family, but also her community and the nation. Some of the achievements, as I mentioned, we just were awarded or won the Energy Globe 2020. We're a finalist for WISE Innovation 2020, Best High School in the American Syed Sustainability Prize 2019. We have a 96% percentage retention rate. And even though our program is rigorous, they study pretty much all day long. And they are here, they come to school. We have 96% retention, which is really amazing to see these results. And they grow, we use a few platforms such as Achieve 3000 Map to monitor their growth. So they, in average, grow 2 years, 2 years growth for every year of school. And also Maya has featured in NPR, Force.com, NBC, Bright Magazine, Malala Fund. So these are some of our achievements. And once again, just for passing it to Ted, we are not the problem, we are the solution, but we cannot do it alone. We need the help and support of organizations, either through funding or also providing these key opportunities and spaces for us to bring our voices and the voices of girls into the table.
Well, thank you, Lydia. Yes, I'm Ted Ning, and I'm in Evergreen, Colorado. I've been a member of the Evergreen Rotary Club for the last 10 years. Actually, I joined Rotary because I was raising money through Rotary for many of the other opportunities I've had. My wife and I also started another organization called Friendship Bridge, and I used 7 matching grants using Rotary. These were microcredit, women's microcredit matching grants. That project continues today in Guatemala with 25,000 families. So in 2007, we moved on to girls' education because we realized that mothers' education, the mothers were being overworked, and they found it very difficult to receive non-formal education. So we decided to go into the dream of the mothers who always wanted to be something more than a mother. They wanted to be more educated. They wanted to be a professional. So we started in 2007 with a project which has now matured to the Colegio Impacto. My involvement with Rotary has really been quite a journey. I've done recently 3 global grants. So we've raised about $250,000 for girls' education. However, in working with the global grants, you have to become very creative. Girls' literacy has to be, at this time, combined with other areas. So we combine our global grants with economic community development. So we look upon the girls as the engines of economic development within our own communities. And that appeals to many Rotarians much more than just directly girls' education. And I think the uniqueness of our project, as Lydia explained, the original program graduated 270 girls from high school. We now have 50 of them at the university in a separate but related program. And what we're learning is that you cannot be working in isolation. You must be working with many other actors. So what we're doing, I think in that one slide that Lydia showed, this is a center of development. This is an open program. Government schools, many of the government teachers are coming and being trained at the school. They're seeing what's possible in an area where seemingly nothing seems to work. I think like most of the countries that we're talking about, very little government money is put into education, period. Very much less money goes to girls. So we need to include the business community, and that's been our big appeal now. We are now reaching out within this project to Rotary clubs because really the future of Guatemala, and I think it's true of the future of many countries, is dependent upon educating the workforce. And we are denying half the workforce. I think Mao Zedong said half the sky is held by women. And I think we have to recognize that if we're going to empower these countries to take care of themselves, and Rotary looks upon that as a necessary element of just world development, we must involve these girls. And we must involve then the systems that prevent these girls from achieving. So at our university program, we now have education, realization that education is not enough. That really what it's about is internships, having girls have practical experiences in the area in which they're studying. And ultimately, the real measurement of our program is going to be jobs. And so I welcome the opportunity to answer questions on how do you work with programs within these different countries? How do we work with Rotary, the business world, and even the government? So we welcome those questions. Thank you.
So 4 great presentations and 4 really outstanding organizations that I think give Rotarians an idea of ways that we can get involved in girls' education, what we can accomplish by being involved with girls' education, and really what the need is for. So my first question, and maybe Ted, I'll ask this of you, when Rotarians are looking at potential programs, and there's lots of organizations out there that are looking for funding, are looking for Rotary support. What are some ways of assessing the effectiveness of a girls' education program, and what should we be looking for in girls' education?
No, I think really, I think it's been fascinating, Cara, to see what you're doing, and Anand, really, and Razi, we're all, I think we're all being culturally appropriate, which is what I really like. We're really stepping in and identifying, the big thing in any grant now is that they Rotary demands community needs assessment. Too long, Rotary has gone in with someone who has the money, has the idea, and they inflict it on the population. And I think we've reached a point in Rotary now where we're really saying we must pay attention to the unique needs of the community. What is it that's going to, because that's really what sustainability is about. We seem to have, I think that's a new term, relatively new term for Rotary, is sustainability. Okay, if I put my money into this thing, where does it go? Where can I see it in 5 years? And I think that's, we've all, what I've heard today, which has really been enjoyable to hear these programs, we're really talking in one sense about long-term sustainability. In other words, will this institution exist in 5 years without my money? Well, but more importantly, there's a second type of sustainability, and that's the girl herself.
Super. Ray, you've done a lot of work in developing countries over the years professionally. How do you take your professional background, same kind of question, and get Rotarians involved? And what do you recommend that we look for in partnerships?
Thank you, Carolyn. There are 2 points. On the ground, the host country, we're dealing with them to begin with if we want success and engaging their partnership and knowing what they think. For example, remember Niger is a US-based nonprofit organization, but they have an office in Niger which provides more effective planning and coordination. So somebody is not parachuting in for a short visit, putting on a safari jacket, taking malaria tablets and saying, I've been there and I know the whole thing. Secondly, our own Rotarians are not familiar with these parts of the world. So having a representative from one of the NGOs at your club or at our club once or twice to explain the program, to give a presentation, I think interests many Rotarians who have enough on their plate in their everyday lives, because eventually what we want is some funding and sustained interest, and if they have technical capabilities, which they may have, we take it.
Super. Several of you spoke about culture, and I think to your point, Ray, it's so important that we, and Ted, both of you, that we appreciate and we understand the culture, and going in as a Rotarian from another part of the world to remember to be quiet and open our ears and to listen. Razia, I really love the story about teaching the kindergarten children to write their father's name first, and that's the first lesson that the children had. Can you speak a little bit more about culture and working with culture, and how to get Rotarians to appreciate the individual cultural differences that we encounter when developing these schools?
I think it's just no matter where you go in the world, every area has their own boundaries, and we have to be so careful to really, when we enter a boundary, to respect them. Although, I'm an Afghan, I grew up there, I know the culture, but for me also, it was so difficult going after 40 years. Things have changed, and there is so much men domination. To break that cycle and to make them understand that yes, woman has a great place in their home, and how to really make it possible for a girl to get educated and really get involved in making the life better. And I think after 10 years of educating these girls, I can see the difference that the fathers do listen to their daughters. And before, the marriages were like 10 years, 9 years old. And right now, the girls have a right. She will just tell her father to please wait till I do high school. And after she does high school, she says, well, give me 2 years of doing my, midwifery program. I'll be in a better position to support my family. And I think so those things have changed. And I think because these girls are a voice, and a really a loud voice in that society right now, I think the fathers and the grandfathers, they do appreciate and they do value their status in the family. I think it has changed, which is amazing, and it's such a great joy for me, for the girls to have that status and that understanding and that kind of a place on the table to make decisions.
I'm curious, each of these programs involve a school for girls. And many times, I think Rotarians will want to go in and look at a school and maybe make it more accessible for school or for girls. Why, in your opinion, and this is for really all of you, is it important to have a separate program for girls?
Well, this is like, if it's a girls' school, then the program goes around there, what they have to offer or what they are giving. I think that's the part that we have to respect and give them the opportunity to speak for themselves. And I think that's what we are trying to do. And I think sometimes we are successful and sometimes we fail. And, before I would just kind of insist on going after one student and really making sure if she's getting married at 10 or 12, not to make the family understand to really postpone it. Mm-hmm. But then I put all the effort in one student, and where my 699 students are left behind. So what I have done to really accept their tradition, and I know my position, that how far I can go to really fight the fight. And once I know that it's of no use, I really kind of give in and look somewhere else to, help somebody else instead of just focusing on one person.
I would like to answer this question, and we usually get this a lot as well. I would say why girls, it's one of the main reasons is because in these rural areas, if families had some money to send their kids to school, they would send a boy. So, and usually girls are left behind, or they are being sent to work, or they will get married. So for us, it's about equity, because also like during this history, or we had a 36 civil war, and as well, it hit hard the history of like indigenous communities. The government doesn't have a lot of intervention, especially after middle school. It doesn't have a quality intervention. So yes, for several reasons, yes, that's why we have a girl school.
Yeah. I'd just like to add too, in my presentation, I told the story about Binta. And part of the reason that she told us, part of the reason that she is so successful now is because, one, it's a smaller class setting in a girls' school, in that school, but also it's all girls and it's female teachers. And she just has a greater sense of self-confidence in that setting, in that situation. And so I do think that it's important at a certain level for girls to be able to grow and thrive and develop in that sort of safe environment.
I brought something in from the world of microcredit, which was the sense of peer pressure. And I think when the girls are within our school, the heaviest part of our program, which I think has made it successful is really peer pressure in a strange way, putting girls together in a group that they can identify with each other, that they have common goals, not just an individual goal, but they have a common goal. I think they hold each other, just like you did in the microcredit system. You know, the microcredit system is 98% successful. Why is that? It's because women and girls trust each other to the point that they share in their weaknesses. They share in their weakness. I'm not going to make it this time. I'm worried. Men don't do that. Okay, men as a group. You know, I'm a urologist, so I can tell you the testosterone blanks out that part of the brain, except for perhaps 10%. And I'm including the men on this discussions in that 10%. But I really think that it's important that women, young girls can share those dreams. They hold them to each other. They hold each other accountable for that dream. And they actually, when they're buffeted by the outside forces, they see their cousins and their family members and the pressure of saying, you're 15, you could go out and get a job. You could be flipping tortillas. You don't have to go to school. You know, schools are dumb for girls. They have a group that they trust, and that group is what's going to pull them through. At the university, we intentionally now put the girls together in groups for the same reason, because they're in the city. I see all the distractions, especially boys. But if a boy comes around, the girls in Guatemala really recognize that they're playing with fire. They're playing with their ideal of what they wish to do with their lives. For this, sure, you know, they have hormones, they have attractions to boys, but we keep them on track because of that peer pressure, which is, I think, absolutely necessary to maintain for girls to be successful.
Carolyn, we have 4 schools, and 2 of them are co-ed, and one is an only girls school. And talking to girls and their mothers when I was last there, the girls reported that they felt very secure in this environment where they were it's an all-female campus. Mm-hmm. And their mothers felt particularly safe and secure in the same environment. So safety was very important for both the girls and their mothers, and they liked the girls-only school. Now, the other 2 schools, one is in Pakistan actually, and there it was a co-ed school till last year when they decided, as they were getting into senior grades, because we started at grade 5 and 6 and now we're at grade 9, that they actually created a separate campus for girls for the same reason that both mothers and the girls find that atmosphere secure and nourishing, and as Ted just mentioned, they get a lot of reinforcement for each other. Now, we have a school in Bangalore, which is a co-ed school till grade 7, and it's been going well. But now, because of the COVID issues where there are going to be social distancing and classrooms will be smaller, we're actually going to a second shift operation, and the second shift will be girls only, and the first shift will be boys only. So there are obviously some perceived advantages. Let me tell you one more story. In our Jaipur school, which is a secular school, it welcomes all kinds of religious communities, but I noticed 4 years ago that most of the girls were Hindu girls. So I did ask the question as to what's happening. And then suddenly when I read 2 years ago, they said 10% of the girls are now Muslim. And so what happened? And he said, 2 years ago, we saw all these women clad in burqas, looking over the walls, checking out the school. And they used to come 3 or 4, times a week and check it out. And suddenly the word got around that this is a safe campus. And then we suddenly had a huge enrollment of minority girls. So, I think there is things to be gained by girls and boys growing up together. But I think in the cultural context and the economic context we're talking about, the parents feel that separate girls' campus is a nice thing to have. It doesn't cost that much more.
There were several points brought up by the presenters that bear on this question. Anand's program spoke about the young girls having household duties, performing these different activities, but they had a shorter school day, which enabled them, from people's viewpoint, they could do what their parents needed, but yet they had time to go to school. There was another case of a young girl writing the grandfather's name for the first time. Pride and what the girl had accomplished. I think we have to remember that we're taking young girls away from a setting that is traditionally restrictive. And for example, they work in the fields, they thresh the grain, they search for water. These are all chores that parents are looking at. But when we do manage to have parents who allow their young girls to go to school and see progress, I think it changes the whole family complexion and that family unit, that yes, it is worthwhile to educate a young girl, and we can manage with these household things, but there is a very definable, clear progress that we see in this young girl, and we're very proud of her. Thank you.
Well said. I think each of your points goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is the need to know the culture and understand the community before we go in and layer our values and our expectations and our desired outcomes on top of the local culture. We're reaching the end of our time, but I did want to ask one more question, and maybe if each of you could respond to this. One of Rotary's goals is to improve brand awareness. Yet, we also want to partner with NGOs, with other organizations that have the technical expertise in order to provide quality programs. So how can Rotarians best get involved with your NGO or another NGO, assist with your program, and still improve the brand awareness and the understanding of Rotary in these situations?
Well, I'll take it. Okay, go ahead. Is that Razia?
Yes, I just, with my organization, because I'm a Rotarian for 25 years, I was a Rotary member before I had this organization. So my roots are really very strong with Rotary clubs. And I think they love to work with us. And I think when there is a success, I think it's the feather goes on the hat of a Rotarian. Because I'm very much involved with Rotary clubs. And also in Afghanistan, I have, I had sponsored a Rotary club that is called Kabul Rotary City Club. And they've been great help for monitoring our projects under the umbrella of the Rotary Club. So I think I walk hand by hand with the Rotary clubs, no matter where they are, and they've been always great asset to my organization.
Rotary, I'm going to be, frank with you, because I've worked with lots of Rotary clubs in Guatemala and lots. My last global grant here took 16 clubs working in different parts of the country, 4 different Rotary districts. The image that Rotary wishes to present is that you as a Rotarian, you as an individual can go out and represent Rotary and make a difference, okay? And the assumption is that somehow perhaps you'll come up with an idea, and you'll bring it back to your Rotary club, and you'll interest other members of your club, and you'll create a project that, catches fire. I mean, that is kind of the selling point of Rotary. The reality is, however, that if you're going to be involved in a project like girls' education, you can't, you don't have the energy, you don't have the sophistication. So you have actually a conflict. And I think Rotary has to, when they recruit people, they're recruiting with the idea that your $1 can, be, maximized through the global grant process to 2.5. This is selling point, but the reality is, and I think for all of us who run, these organizations, you recognize that it's great to involve people, but not, sure, you want money, but what you're going to have to do is get the whole physical Rotarian into your project. That seems to me the only way you effectively allow that person to feel that they're being a Rotarian, that they're effectively working. And through that mechanism, you then get the money. But just to ask, Rotary clubs to just put in money without putting in any skin in the game, I think is really, it's confusing to the Rotarian. It really is. And I think some people will say that if we open this question up, like, what do I do as an individual? Well, of course, money is the important part. But I think it's personal involvement within the project itself that honestly fits the model, I think, what Rotary wants. And that gives the problem of the signage. We recently had a technical advisor come down to our project because it was a $160,000 grant. They send, once you exceed a certain threshold, probably about 90,000, they have to send a technical advisor into the field to confirm that the project is doing well before Rotary releases its funds. Okay, those are the funds actually coming out of the foundation. All the other money is coming out of the clubs and the district. And the biggest thing of the 4 points they look at is signage. Rotary really wants the biggest sign possible to be, if anything, painted on the front of the school. That's what they're looking for, again, as an organization. So I think we're navigating a kind of a tough area. The way in which it's promoted, go in the field and find something and we'll fund it, versus the reality, which is if we're really looking for sustainability, you have to trust the organization to do it. You can't, you can become part of it, but you can't do it yourself.
Carolyn, may I add 2 quick points, if I may? I agree with your question about how to improve brand awareness, and Carolyn knows we've given her and her colleagues Rotary baseball caps to wear out there in Niger. It's a very simple thing, but we hope she's wearing them, and if anybody looks around, she's not a Rotarian, but she's wearing that hat. Secondly, I think we found, not only with Kara and her group, but in other funding organizations, we don't make things difficult for financing. We try to minimize the complications of the planning, taking their budget. We don't look for flow charts. We don't look for Gantt charts. We try to keep it as simple as possible. We keep a short timeline and not have the NGO get worn out by our needs for details and complications. So I think that's something that we look for, and that helps our brand awareness because they can say, look, these guys are okay. They're not that difficult. So let's work with them. Thank you.
Excellent point. Anand?
2 thoughts. The Rotary brand takes place both at the individual project level, and we've got a huge Rotary sign on the bus that was financed for our school in Jaipur. But the other brand formation takes place at the global level through our polio program, for example. And there remains a disconnect between our basic way of doing business, which is individual club-driven projects, and our hesitation to pick up another theme after polio, which we push at a global level. Now, if you look at the polio experience, it started with 4 or 5 successful projects that we convinced ourselves, despite many doubting Thomases, that there was a simple solution to this chronic and mega problem. And once we convinced ourselves, we went from the project approach to a program approach, where the funding was raised because of the theme, and then we funded whenever right ideas came up, so that all the mechanics of putting 2 cents and $5 and $10 together and writing up all that stuff was put to the side, because we knew, and I think we somehow have not got convinced ourselves that there is a next polio program waiting to be adopted. And I think the thing we're talking about at the moment, I honestly believe, because I've studied the history of polio and I've studied where we are, that this is the kind of program which could be the next polio. And that will create the brand better than putting flags and caps out there in front of people.
It's hard to follow that. That's a good call to action. This just as an anecdotal description of how Rotary spreads in Niger, we have been consistently working with the 2 Rotary clubs in Niamey, which is the capital of Niger. And they actually recruited several of our partners to start a Rotary club out in another city, kind of in the middle of Niger. And so I've found that our partners really appreciate Rotary and the way in which Rotary works at the global level, but then really at the local level as well. And it's been exciting to see them get more engaged in their own projects at the Hamsa Girls Education Center, of course, but also last time I was there, they were doing a blood drive for a hospital in their area. And so in Niger, that's a really big deal. I'm sure it's a big deal everywhere, but so just as a personal testimony, I can say that beyond the plaques and the signs and stuff, there's real growth happening.
Excellent points and excellent ideas. So I think our time is coming to an end here. I'd really like to thank everyone. For our viewers, I'd like to thank all of our participants today, Razia Jean with Razia's Ray of Hope, Karak Vanderkamp and Ray Panzik with Remember Niger Coalition, Lydia Ochi and Ted Ning with Maya Impact, and Anand Seth with EduGirls. The contact information and websites are up on the screen. I believe there certainly would be a strong interest to get involved with any of these organizations that have Rotarian roots and Rotarian ties. Please contact them directly. And I'll put in a plug for the Literacy Rotarian Action Group. If you're interested in helping promote girls' education or other literacy and education projects, LitRag is an excellent way to get involved and be involved. You can get in contact with us through litrag.org. Join us and help us promote girls' education, literacy, and education throughout the Rotary world. Thank you again.